Hey folks, this is Chai here from Zoho One marketing team. Today we are with Mayur from Nomad Gao. Nomad Gao is a co-living and co-working space. They are based out of Goa and Himachal Pradesh. Welcome to our podcast series, Mayur.
Thanks, Shai, for inviting me on this podcast. It's great to be here. It's been great spending time with you and the team over the last couple of days, shooting the case study, shooting my experiences with Zoho One, and looking forward to talk more about NomadGao and everything.
Indeed, we are grateful also. It has been a wonderful experience with you. So, this is a podcast series where we invite business owners to talk about their insights, trends about their industry, and also what you do, how you do, and why you do it. So, let's get started.
Sure.
What is a digital nomad and who is a digital nomad?
Yeah. So, digital nomads are people, essentially knowledge workers, people who can work on their laptops and have the flexibility to work from anywhere. So, they can travel and work at the same time. So, typically, digital nomads uh, travel long time, travel to different places, work from different places, make connections with new cultures, new places, new food, uh, make new friends along the way, um, grow as they travel and work on their laptops.
Right. So, primarily, digital nomads are people who are capable of doing remote work.
Yes.
We have a few of customers in the pipeline who are based out of co-living and co-working spaces. One thing I've noticed with all these businesses are the target audience are the same, but with the geographical locations changing, the the cultures, the target demographics, the wants and needs of the peers is changing drastically. For example, coach, they prefer um, privacy over everything. They are not into this whole thing of community. They live in a metropolitan city. They had a long day. They want to go home, sleep, and the weekends they want to go out and have fun. But if we come to Nomad Gao, community is the key aspect of Nomad Gao, right?
Right.
So, how do you build the sense of community among your peers? I do understand people who are signing up for co living are primarily extroverts, but even though in a place like Goa, people want to go out, adventure, do things, and have fun, right? So, how do you foster the sense of community among all your peers?
Yeah, that's very interesting question. So you mentioned that uh, they don't really want community; they want comfort. They prefer comfort over the community, and I think that's the key. You know, what we are building at NomadGao is a place where you can have a choice between privacy and community whenever you want. So we only have private rooms, comfortable, very comfortable private rooms. Uh, every room is equipped with desk, good internet. So if you want to work from your room or if you want to just have some me time, you can go to your room. We don't have dorms. It's not a hostel. But if you want to be part of the community, you can just go to the co-working space and you'll meet a lot of people doing bunch of interesting things. During day, they are working from here. Evenings, we are going for football right after this. But evenings, we do a lot of events throughout the week. Thursdays are game nights. We play football on Tuesdays. Then Fridays, as you said, people also like to party. So Fridays are reserved for bar hopping or some sort of party. Saturdays and Sundays we do excursions. And you mentioned that co-living is more for extroverts. I would rather say, co-living is actually a very great solution, living solution for introverts and ambiverts. In fact, sometimes we joke about NomadGao being a community of introverts. I myself identify more as an ambivert. I'm not an extrovert. I'm very selective about the kind of people I want to be with. Uh, and I'm more comfortable in smaller groups. Because extroverts can make their own community wherever they go, right? Even if they stay alone in a serviced apartment, they can still go out, make new friends. But introverts and ambiverts, they need a curated environment, curated community. And that's what we strive for, right? It's a curated community where introverts, extroverts, ambiverts, everyone would feel at home. In fact, our manifesto says exactly the same thing. If you are an introvert, you are welcome. Extrovert, you are welcome. If you are an ambivert, you are welcome. It doesn't matter.
Understood. And we got to meet your team also and your peers. They are very welcoming, very warm people. So, yeah. Another topic that I wanted to discuss with you is uh, how do you balance your productivity life as well as personal life? So, for people like me who are trying the digital nomad life for the first time, what would be some of your key takeaways or the things you would like to share with them?
I think, digital nomad or remote work are relatively new terms, especially for Indians. Um, a lot of people only came to know about a new way of working only because of the pandemic, right? And the world was not ready for remote work. It suddenly hit us. I've been working remotely since 2014, became digital nomad in around the same time because I had the flexibility to travel. Uh, and I said, why not I do things that I want to do after retirement or I've always been thinking about doing. And travel was on the top of the list, right? So I started traveling along with my laptop. Uh, it was challenging initially to set a routine, to balance the personal life, balance my hobbies, interests. Uh, but what I have realized is if you could set a right routine for your work, nothing like it. Because if you ask me, people in big cities spend a couple of hours a day traveling. They feel tired at the end of the day. So in terms of uh, productive time at hand, there is a there is very little time left to do quality work, right? Whereas if you are working remotely, uh, you don't have to go through all that, you know, uh, traveling, yeah, hustle bustle. You can just get off the bed and you can start doing creative, productive work. So some of the things I have inculcated is set a routine. Just because you are working from home or working remotely doesn't mean you can slack off. You know, there is this habit among a lot of people that they can't work without a boss on their head, right? But you have to be self-motivated to be a digital nomad or to make remote work for you. And I think softwares, communication tools play a big role in helping people, be productive while working remotely. Um,
So the key takeaways would be to be to have some sense of discipline in them
yes.
and also be self motivated.
Disciplined, self-motivated. Also, you need to know your boundaries because for a lot of people, just because they're working from home, they complain about work taking all their day, right? They mix their personal lives with their work and professional life, and I think that also happens because of lack of discipline or lack of focused workspace. And I think NomadGao plays a great role. Places like NomadGao play a great role in bridging that gap. Right? I cannot work from home because I have 3 kids, and it sometimes it's noisy. Sometimes uh, it's not really a conducive environment for productive work. So I go to co-working spaces. At NomadGao also, we get people from people who stay in Goa. They come here just to work. And then there are people who come here to live as well, live and work. But there are also people who want to get away from work from home, and so there is this misconception that people equate remote work with work from home. But work from home is just one way of working remotely, right? There are multiple ways. You can work from cafes, you can work from co-working spaces, you can be a digital nomad, travel and work from different locations. And the world is open to you.
So, but this aspect of working from cafes and all the other things, it has reached Goa and it has reached the metropolitan cities. But what about cities like, let's take, since I'm from Tamil Nadu, what about districts like Salem? What about, Secunderabad? what about all these places that are not, technically savvy yet?
Right. So, let's be aware that not everyone can work from home, right?
Right.
Uh, or not everyone can work remotely. Uh, of course, the change is happening. I have seen people from places like Jaipur and Indore starting to work remotely. There are co-working spaces coming up in tier 2, tier 3 cities. So the change is happening slowly and slowly. So one thing that has happened during COVID is um, earlier startups used to go to co-working space and work from there.
Right.
Big companies used to have their own offices. During COVID, a lot of big companies moved to co-working. A lot of startups moved to remote work, complete remote work. So new age startups which were born in COVID were remote by default.
Yeah, in Zoho, we did a few case studies, and most of these small startups and new businesses, they are working out of co-working spaces primarily.
Yeah.
They some of them do have office, but primarily they're all co-working.
Because it saves a lot of costs, and then you have access to talent from everywhere, right? If you're limited to, let's say, Bangalore, you'll have to find talent from and in around Bangalore. But if you're remote, and if you find some developer who's sitting somewhere in the northeast of India, who is not ready to move location,
Right.
you can hire them and you can work remotely and get things done. And one thing I love about Zoho is, I think, your founder, Mr. Sridhar Vembu, lives this philosophy, right? He himself works from a village, encourages more people to work from villages, setting up Zoho offices in different villages.
We have our small offices almost in all districts of Tamil Nadu. His primary goal is to bring everyone back to their villages, make economic conditions grow all over India. So even if you notice our office at Chennai, it's not inside Chennai. It'll take at least 2 hours for you to get from Chennai to our office.
Wow.
So we're literally out of the city. And now in and around Zoho, around 10 to 15-kilometer radius, everything is grown. There's new apartments, there's service apartments, there's hostels, this, that, restaurants, theaters, everything has come up. So,
and this is what excites me, right, about building Nomad Gao.
Right.
So it's not just about attracting digital nomads, but I and my team, we often think about, how can what we are doing support local economy or support villages, create employment, or help smaller businesses around. And we have something called Nomad Gao Passport, where we encourage people to go and try out different restaurants around, local places, local experiences, because we really want. We can't grow alone in our in our community, right? So community is not just about community of customers who are coming and staying here and paying us for that. Community is also about what's around us, and we want to grow along with the community around us. And that's the philosophy I personally.
that's really wonderful, Mayur. Let's take you as an example. You're a business owner, you have a family, you have 3 kids, and then you travel extensively. So, how do you balance all your time between all these activities?
Um, Good question. I start my day early because early in the day kids are sleeping, so I have more time to do some focused work. I get some focused work done, and then I do some calls and stuff. So I think it's important to set a couple of hours a day just for focused work, which includes writing SOPs, going through softwares, going through Zoho Social. By the way, this is one of the first things that I do when I start my day, just to get idea about how are the social media metrics looking, because as a consumer centric business, we are there everywhere. We are on Instagram, we are on YouTube, we are on all social media, LinkedIn for that matter, and I look at that, and then after calls I am generally available for more casual sort of conversations.
Right.
So I talk to customers, get their feedback, or I talk to some neighbors, like neighbors in the ecosystem about how their business is doing, how can we help. We are also, starting to franchise. So second half of the day, I talk to potential partners on how can we bring Nomad Gao experience to different parts of the country. Um, and then by 5 in the evening, I'm done with work. I spend time with my family, with kids. I check their studies, and we homeschool them, by the way. So they study by themselves. And in the evenings, I spend time on making sure they're growing, they're learning. We live in Dharamshala these days, a very peaceful place. I commute 10 steps to my office. I've set up one room, although I can't work from home uh, because, right now I need to spend time with kids also. I love to spend time with them. I've dedicated one room, soundproofed it, converted into an office. That's where I mostly work from on weekdays in the first half. Second half, I go to cafes and stuff to work from. And couple of days in a week, I go to Nomad Gao location in Dharamkot. It's overlooking the mountains, so it gives me some creative inspiration. And as a father, as an entrepreneur, I think every minute counts, and that means if I have to say no to a few things, I say no to a few things. Uh, and I live a minimalist life uh, so that I don't burden myself with too many decisions to make, so that I have time for what matters.
Looks like you have a well-defined schedule and you live a. You're all set, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are days when I don't feel like working.
Right.
But that happens very rarely. Most of the times I'm super motivated to work because I love what I'm doing. I love what I'm building, and I think it's impactful.
It definitely is. So that's the reason for all this case study. We wanting to reach out to you, and we would like to spotlight you next because as a company we prefer spotlighting business owners, and as you said, we want everyone else to grow along with us.
Right.
So
Thanks for that. Thanks for that.
and as a business owner, uh, any business owner will face challenges in order to reach the next leap, right? What are some of the challenges you faced in terms of technology and in terms of building the community?
Yeah. Uh, so we started in August 2019,
Right.
just few months before the pandemic,
Mhm.
right? And when we started, our focus was on international global digital nomads because very few people in India worked remotely back then. And then COVID happened. Suddenly, international flights were not happening, and there was chaos. Uh, there were lockdowns and stuff, and there were a lot of people stuck in Nomad Gao at that point in time because they could not fly back to their country. Uh,
So how did you handle those?
so with empathy, you know, uh, as you know, we are a community uh, focused startup. That means during lockdown, if somebody was stuck, we helped them. We went out of our way to get them groceries and stuff to cook, or to just be with them and you know talk to them so that they feel less anxious about what's happening with the world or what's happening back home. Um, and we are humanizing remote work, right?
Right, right.
The way
That's wonderful.
the way I personally like, I attribute a lot of good things that happened to my life to remote work and digital nomad lifestyle. Um, so I met my wife while traveling as a digital nomad. I had so many interesting experiences. I grew as a person because I became digital nomad. I learned to take care of myself. So building community, building Nomad Gao is my way of giving this beautiful gift to more people, helping more foreigners explore India. Because when I was traveling, a lot of people, a lot of non-Indians said I was the first Indian digital nomad that they met, and they had a lot of questions about India. Is India safe? Is the internet good? All of those. And I said, let me do something about this. Let me do something to make India popular among global digital nomads.
Right.
And at the same time, I felt like if India is a country of 1.4 billion people, how am I the only Indian digital nomad that people meet? Is it
Makes sense.
possible to make digital nomad lifestyle popular among Indians? And these were the two primary goals behind starting NomadGao.
I'm sorry, I think I diverted you. We were talking about the challenges you face in terms of technology and community. Sorry for this.
Yes, when I talk about community, I just go here and there because
I can see your
talk about
face glowing.
community 24/7. So I think COVID was a big challenge for us. I'm a non-tech founder, so initially a lot of things, and ours is a very human-centric business, right? So for a long time we did not use any software. We even now we are very high touch. We talk to customers quite often, but in early couple of years, a lot of our time went into repetitive tasks. You know, giving people directions or sending people packing lists or talking to the same person 5 times about the weather, right? But then we started using software to do some of these repetitive things. It freed up a lot of time for me personally. It made the whole customer communication more efficient. And when we started using Zoho One, after a while, I felt like, okay, life is so much easier now. So in fact, last year we spent 9 months in Vietnam. I was managing my business from there, and primarily through a bunch of Zoho apps inside Zoho One.
That's great to know, Mayur. And we saw your setup. That's a wonderful setup. But with the limited knowledge that I have about Zoho's application, I think Zoho Survey, Zoho Bookings, and Zoho Work Drive would help you in a much efficient way. You keep talking about saving time as a business owner. Time is everything to you. These things will furthermore reduce the time that's spent on manual work for you.
Sure. I will talk to the implementation team,
Sure.
And I'll try to make the most of Zoho One.
Right.
Yeah.
So, moving forward, we ask all our business owners, all our customers this question: that what would be some of the key takeaways that you would give to people who are, trying to get into the space of co-working or co-living, or people who are trying to invest in this zone? What would be some of your takeaways that you would give them so that they can crack it, and also do's and don'ts?
Yeah, that's a very broad question, Chai. I'll try to answer that.
Right.
I think every market is different, right?
Right.
I started co-working, co-living because I feel passionate about it. I meet like-minded people in the community. I can stay in these beautiful places, and that's the purpose co-working, co-living serves for me. So for someone who's starting co-working, co-living or planning to start, I think it's very important to know why you're doing what you're doing, right? Are you starting co-working, co-living because there is market? Is that your only reason, or you want to do that for variety of other reasons, including community? So getting that part right will help you build something beautiful, which will help you stand out from crowded co-working market. Otherwise, it's just 4 walls and bunch of chairs and tables and good internet, right? But what's the soul of what you are trying to build? And that soul should come from your own experiences, your own life, your own philosophy towards living life. And this is my philosophy.
So you're saying there has to be something more than just money to get into the space?
I mean, for some people, money solely as a motivation works, right?
Yes.
Doesn't work for me. So, I think depending on who you are, if money drives you, go for it. If there is something more that drives you, spend some time thinking about it and building your business with that in mind.
Right. Uh, that's really wonderful to listen. And we have 60,000 businesses as our customers, Mayur. So, and we handpick our case studies and we handpick our podcast. We see a bigger mission in Nomad Gao. We see a bigger mission. We see the soul that you're talking about. We could notice it in Nomad Gao. That's the reason for all this, and we are very happy to know that.
Thank you.
So I was doing a little bit of research before I come and meet you because I want to have my stats right. So in a recent survey, out of 108 countries that does remote work, India is in the 64th position. Earlier we were around 70 or 80. We've grown exponentially in the past couple of years. So where do you see co-living heading and co-working heading separately? Please answer these two separately. And also, what are your plans and how have you planned your next 5 years in this market?
So, remote work in India, as I said, before COVID, there were hardly any Indian remote workers, right? And culturally also, people like to see, managers like to see people working from their desks.
Yes.
So that was the case. Even now, it's still a case, but we have seen more millennials becoming managers, and there is a bit of ease into acceptance of remote work, right? Going forward, India is one of the youngest populations in the world, right? Even though we have 1.4 billion people, over half of them are below 30, averages is 27, 28. It's very conducive for remote work, and we'll see more and more remote work happening, more acceptance to remote work as we move over next 5 years.
Right.
Second thing is, in terms of tech literacy, tech savviness, also Indian professionals are very high, right? Like we have a lot of technology companies, we have a lot of developers, programmers, whose preferred way of working is working remotely. We have a lot of knowledge workers who can work from anywhere, and they've proved that during COVID. Companies like Infosys and all, although they oppose remote work, they have grown during COVID, right?
Right.
So there is no reason why remote work doesn't work. Now talking specifically about co-working, co-working is already growing, right? As I said, more larger companies, medium stage startups are moving to co-working setup instead of having their own office, because people don't see a value in keeping office and having so much of fixed costs. People have already seen cost savings in moving to co-working. And then when we talk about co-living, there are multiple drivers. First is young people want to be part of community of like-minded people. We have seen at Nomad Gao, we did not have any Indians before COVID, and right now it's 50% Indians, 50% foreigners. And people want people, and COVID has shown a lot of people that, people were stuck in their rooms for months. They, missed genuine human connection. They missed hanging out with other people.
I was one of the people.
And even with team connection, right? Most of them were talking to their teammates over Zoom calls, or they never met their teams, those who joined during COVID.
We hope you're using Zoho meeting instead of Zoom calls, Mayur.
Yes, Zoom meeting for us. Yeah. And what happened is people realized that, okay, what we were taking for granted, which is meeting people, suddenly it was taken away from us.
Right.
And co-living picked up during that time. We got so many Indians for the first time saying, first timers who tried co-living, they came and they said, oh, this is such a beautiful experience, I did not know this existed.
Right.
And then I talked about people missing their teams, right? Missing the connection with their teams. So we do a lot of team retreats at Nomad Gao. So companies which work remotely, they come to Nomad Gao once in a quarter.
I think Zoho visited Nomad Gao once.
Yes, one of Zoho's team also visited Nomad Gao. I feel that it's not necessary to be in a big city, go to office to build culture, human connection between teams. You can meet once in a quarter in place like Goa, where you can, focus on building connection beyond just work, right? Beyond just transactional relation. And that's what we do at Nomad Gao. People, teams come and stay for 4 or 5 days, 1 week. Apart from work in the evenings, they do our community events, they do game night, they play board and card games. Some of them go for some local experiences. And that's what builds the connection, right? And there is an unfiltered view of your colleagues, and that makes you make new friends. Otherwise, you go to office and you have a limited connection.
What you're doing with Nomad Gao is wonderful, Mayur, and thanks for sharing all these insights. As I told you, we have a set of customers in our pipeline who are from this sector. We'll share all these insights with them also, and we hope some of your viewers and listeners are also who are trying, digital nomad life for the first time. We hope they are also benefited through this conversation. Once again, thanks for your time, and you have a beautiful place here. I think it's time we go get on the turf.
Yes, this is not the only lawn I want to be on, right? I want to go play football with you, and hopefully you're 21. So hopefully, I prefer to score own goals.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching this episode. If you like to listen to our other episodes, we'll link them in the description. This is Sai signing off from Customer Chronicles.